What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Top Dogs podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. And we have a couple things that we have to talk about. UConn on Friday night went into Fog Allen Fieldhouse, and they lost to then number 5 Kansas, who will probably be higher ranked once this podcast actually comes out. Final score was 69-65. I thought UConn actually played pretty well given the circumstances. They didn't make shots. Kansas made a lot of shots. Sometimes that's the way that it goes. We're going to talk all about that. I got about 15 or 20 minutes here prepared, breaking down that game. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's time to move forward. And if you can go into Fog Allen Fieldhouse and have a shot to take the lead with 8 seconds left, despite being down by 12 earlier in the game, I don't think that there's really any way for you to be that upset about it. But there's some things that we can talk about, and there's some things that I think UConn can improve on. We're also going to spin this forward a little bit. We're going to look at North Carolina. UConn is playing them in the Jimmy V Classic. That tip-off will probably be around 9 o'clock on Tuesday evening from Madison Square Garden, from Storrs South, from UConn's third home arena. So hopefully it'll be loud. Hopefully it'll be packed, and hopefully UConn fans are going to show out for that. Before we do, please, as always, rate, review, subscribe to this podcast. That is the best way to support us, support the Field of 68, support me if you do enjoy what we are doing here and the content you're getting for free. Like, rate, review, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review, do all of those things that make me happy as a podcaster. All right. Let's get into the game first and foremost. The single biggest takeaway, and I don't know how anybody could take away anything other than this, is that Tristen Newton was utterly immense. He had one of the single best performances I think we've seen all season long. When you can go into Fog Allen Fieldhouse and you got to deal with 3 absolute killers defensively, DeJuan Harris, Kevin McCullough, KJ Adams, so those dudes are absolute killers on the defensive end of the floor. And you can put up 31 points on 10 for 18 shooting, and you can shoot 6 for 9 from 3, and you can make some of the shots that he made. I don't know how you could say anything else. Tristan, right now, as of this moment, as of this publication, is averaging 17.5 points, 7.9 boards, 6.3 assists to just 2.5 turnovers per game, 1.6 steals while shooting 46.7% from the floor, 37.5% from 3, and 83.7% from the free throw line. The field goal shooting and 3-point shooting numbers are career highs. The scoring numbers are the best that he's done outside of the AAC. Assist numbers, career highs. Rebound numbers, career highs. Steal numbers, career highs. The dude is having an unbelievable season. He's having an All-American caliber season. And I don't know at this moment in time if there is a point guard in college basketball that is having a better season than him. Everyone is going to say Tyler Kolek is the best point guard in the Big East. Everyone is going to say guys like that are the best players in college basketball. Find me somebody having a better year than Tristen Newton. If Cam Spencer makes that 3 from the right corner, I know there's a lot of ifs, and we're going to have a lot of ifs, and we're going to have a lot of if Cam Spencer did this, if Alex Garabin made that, if this defensive rotation was made. There's going to be a lot of ifs involved in this conversation. But if that shot goes in and UConn wins that game, I think that we are having a conversation about Tristen Newton as a first-team All-American. That's how close it is right now. I don't know if there's a better point guard in college basketball right now than what he's doing. And I don't know if there's been a point guard that had a better performance than what he did on the road against those 3 defensive players. That's the single biggest thing, my single biggest takeaway from the game in the Fog, from the game at Kansas on Friday night. The second biggest takeaway that I had is that this showcased more than anything else to me the issues that UConn is going to have as long as Steph Castle is not on the floor. And I think it popped up on both ends. So let's start defensively first. Kevin McCullough finished with 21 points, 5 boards, hit 3 big threes down the stretch. To me, it was more the start that he had, the fact that they were able to throw the ball into him in the post, the fact that he was kind of able to overpower a guy like a Tristen Newton, a guy like a Cam Spencer, because he does have about 4 inches on them. Steph Castle is the best defender on this team, the best perimeter defender on this team, the most versatile defender on this team, and the one guy on the UConn roster that has the size and athleticism to be able to deal with the big wings in college basketball. Point blank, period. Not having him hurts. It is what it is. Everybody's going to deal with injuries and players missing time. I think that you saw about as much of an effort and as high quality an effort and as applaudable of an effort from everybody else that stepped up in that void. But it is what it is. He's 6'6". He's 220 pounds. He's tough. He's athletic. And as good as solo ball is, as much as I like Cam Spencer, as good as Tristen Newton was, they are just not the same size and not the same defender that Steph Castle is. So not having him there is a matchup that Kansas was able to take advantage of, and they quite clearly did. The other part of it is it goes to what Kansas did defensively. And so I'm going to have a conversation about that first and foremost. So the Jayhawks switched everything 1 through 4, switched all exchanges, which means anytime that Tristan Newton or Alex Caravan set a screen for each other, ran by each other, rotated past each other, the Kansas defenders would switch. Same thing, Tristan Newton to Cam Spencer. Same thing, Cam Spencer to solo ball. Any exchange that did not involve Samson Johnson or Donovan Clingan at the 5, that did not involve Hunter Dickinson, Kansas just switched. They basically said, we think KJ Adams can guard point guards, and we think DeJuan Harris can guard Alex Caravan, and we're going to make you beat us one-on-one, as opposed to allowing you to get offense out of the sets that you run. That is why you switch defensively. That is why you play that style. That is why you do what Kansas did on that end of the floor. It takes you out of the ability to get offense running sets, more or less. And if you know anything about UConn, know anything about how Dan Hurley coaches, so much of what they do comes via the offense that they run, the false motion, getting into an action, the counters to that action, the counters to the counters. UConn has as in depth and it is an advanced of playbook as anybody is going to have in college basketball. And their offensive execution, the majority of the time, is what is able to get them so many good looks from the floor. So many open looks, so many opportunities for Tristan Newton coming off a dribble handoff and throwing a lob up to Donovan Clingan, Cam Spencer coming off of a ball screen, throwing a lob to Sam Johnson. So much of what they do offensively comes out of what is schemed by Danny Hurley. And when you switch everything, especially switching everything 1 through 4, it takes so much of that away. And what it does is it forces you to try to beat people one-on-one and try to make plays one-on-one against mismatches. And the only guy that was really able to do that consistently throughout the game on Friday night was Tristan Newton. And that's because nobody else on this roster is really built to be a one-on-one basketball player, right? Like Cam Spencer. And I feel like I'm going to be hard on Cam Spencer in this podcast. And there's a level of criticism that needs to be levied for somebody that shot 2 for 12. But at the same point, he had a foot thing coming in. He rolled the other ankle during the game. There are going to be nights where shooters don't make shots. That's part of it, part of what it is. He is a fantastic basketball player. UConn would not have been 7-0 and as dominant as they were at the start of the season if it was not for him. He had an off night. He was banged up. It is what it is. So I want to make that very clear as we head into the rest of this podcast. I love him. Give him more minutes, ice up those ankles, get him healthy, because UConn could not win a national title without Cam Spencer on the floor. All that said, Cam Spencer's not a guy, especially when he's banged up, that is going to beat people one-on-one. It's just not what he does. It's not his game. That's not how he plays. You don't put him on an island and say, go get us a bucket and expect him to be able to do that, right? So if you're Bill Self, the best way to take away what makes Cam Spencer so effective is to put him in those situations where he has to play one-on-one. I think you could say the same thing about Alex Caravan. He's a little bit better. He should have been able to post up guards a little bit more. I think that he has more shit to him than just being a spot up shooter, but we didn't really see that. Part of it was because he was in a little bit of foul trouble. But he was another guy that where Kansas basically said, we are okay if Alex Caravan tries to beat us one-on-one. They are okay if Solo Balls tries to beat him one-on-one. So what it kind of came down to was, can Tristan Newton make enough plays against that Kansas defense to be able to keep UConn in it? And the answer was a resounding yes. Like I said, he was fucking phenomenal. I don't think we can, after rewatching the tape, I don't think I can overstate just how good he was, just how difficult the shots that he made were, just how tough it was to go up against those defenders. I mean, look, I'm never going to be speechless because I talk for a living, but I don't think it can be overstated just how damn good he was. UConn had 9 assists on 23 field goals, which is not something that you expect to see out of a UConn team. And they were a shot away from beating Kansas in Fog Allen Fieldhouse. That's how good Tristan Newton was. That cannot be overstated. We saw something similar to this. I remember it very specifically. It was in the 21-22 season. It was when Providence came into, I believe that game was actually played in the Hartford Civic Center. UConn did not have Adama Sanogo, and Providence switched everything 1 through 5. They were up by like 18 in the second half. UConn made a run. They ended up losing 57-53. A lot of people criticized Dan Hurley for it, but that was a similar. it was a similar kind of schematic defensive style. And it cost UConn because they didn't have the guys to be able to make plays one-on-one. Now, in the second half, I thought that there were some very, very smart adjustments that were made. Instead of setting like regular screens and having these regular exchanges, what UConn was doing, they were setting back screens and slipping those back screens. So you would kind of get the same movement within the offense, but instead of like Tristan Newton setting a pin down and having Cam Spencer run off of it, Cam Spencer would go to set the back screen and then just dive and slip the screen, and Tristan Newton would go back to where he was, like he was running off of the ball screen. So you get the guys going the same motions. It's just a different action to be able to mess with the defense. And one of them led to a wide open Spencer 3 that he left a little bit short. And that was at, I want to say, about the 17-minute mark of the second half, and the 15-30 mark of the second half. They were able to get a slip for Alex Caravan, who got a wide open layup off of Donovan Clingan back door. Later on in the second half, they were able to get a Sandiara running off of one of them, and Samson Johnson found him for a layup that made it 52-47. So they were able to tweak what they did to get offense. That's coaching, for the record, for the non-UConn fans that still think Dan Hurley sucks at what he does. That's coaching, those tweaks. That's coaching. He's pretty smart, be able to figure some of that stuff out. And then the other thing that they did was just run a shitload of false motion. Like there was one play in the second half that gave UConn a 50-47 lead where they just like ran a weave for what felt like 20 seconds. And then finally it came Cam Spencer coming off of a DHO with Samson Johnson rolling to the basket. KJ Adams had been switched on to Tristen Newton, and he instinctively goes and tags to try to take away the lob. Everybody's on the left side of the floor. Tristen Newton's wide open, bangs home a 3. UConn takes a 3-point lead. That's when they kind of really had things rolling. And then the other one was the Samson dunk, where they were just kind of able to get a switch. They got into a Spain pick and roll, which means that Tristan Newton comes off the pick and roll. Samson Johnson is rolling to the basket. Whoever was under the rim goes and sets a back screen on the guy guarding Samson Johnson, guarding the roll man. Ball gets thrown up to the rim, bam, dunks on him. And it just worked. It worked. They were able to get things out of their offense that they weren't able to get earlier in the game. Now, what happened down the stretch was Kevin McCullough got it loose a couple times, knocked home 3 huge threes. The first one, him and Samson Johnson got tangled up. He was late coming down. There had already been a switch. So Samson went to go help Cam Spencer, who was in the post against KJ Adams, who kicked the ball out, wide open 3. McCullough bangs it. Second one, Tristan Newton fell asleep, wasn't really paying attention, couldn't see ball and man. Ball goes to the baseline, gets thrown to Kevin McCullough. Newton doesn't see it. He's late to react. Open 3 from the corner. Third one, the dagger that made it 66-60. UConn was in a 1-3-1. Ball gets dropped off to Kevin McCullough in the corner, and he hit a 3 with 2 guys running at him. It was tough. It was contested. UConn got there defensively. That's the shot that you live with. The kid just happened to hit it. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap and applaud him for making a big play. There's a reason why these guys are high major Division I basketball players playing at top 5 programs. Sometimes they're just going to make big shots. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think that UConn played well enough defensively. Look, I've seen criticism for Donovan Clingan. I thought that he was immense defensively. Hunter Dickinson scored 6 points that weren't open threes. We told you in the preview that using him as a pick and pop threat was going to be something that happened. It did. He made 3 of 4. He's shooting like 75% on threes. The risk that you take when you play drop like UConn does with Donovan Clingan is that pitch back to the screener. Sometimes you're going to make shots. He made 3 of 4. It just is what it is. That's the shot that you live with. If you're UConn, that's the shot that you want them to take. A contested 3, Hunter Dickinson with Donovan Clingan running at him. He made 3 of them. It is what it is. He was 2 for 8 on post-ups. I thought that part of the reason why UConn was able to make the run after that hot start that Kansas had was that Donovan Clingan, the Great Wall of Bristol, took away anything in and around the basket. And I thought he was very, very good defensively. He's not going to show up in the stats, but he was. There were two things that I noted. One was there was a post up at 58-54 where he had Marco Jackson on him. Look, Donovan Clingan is never going to be a great post up player this season. That's just not what his game is at this point in his career arc and his development. But when you got Marco Jackson on you and you are 6 feet from the rim, you can't take a fadeaway jump hook. And that ended up being a play where he missed it. The ball got knocked out of bounds. It was actually off of Marco Jackson, but there was like 4 minutes left, so they couldn't review it. Kansas got the ball, and they went down. And that was it. Eventually was the three that McCullough hit the next possession. So that gave no, I'm sorry, it was Dickinson hit a three at the other end, which gave him a 61-54 lead, which is kind of the point when it was like, all right, so I don't know if this is going to happen. Capped off an 11-0 run. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today. The other note that I just had was that I think that it's going to be what it is when you are playing against another 7'2" guy, right? Like what makes Hunter Dickinson great is the stuff that shows up in a box score. He can score. He's a great rebounder. He's a great 3-point shooter at this point in his career. Like, he is a guy where if for Kansas to be able to win, he needs to go and get like 22 and 12, like he did against Kentucky. He finished with 15 and 9 against UConn. Didn't even play that well. Whereas what makes Donovan Clingan great is stuff that's not going to show up in the box score. Right. It is the fact that you can run a ball screen and have DeJuan Harris feel like he has an open lane and can't shoot it. That doesn't show up in the box score, but it's the fact that he's 7'3" and his mere presence in the paint deters you from trying to get a shot off. That's being good defensively. That's him doing what he does. That's being the Great Wall of Bristol. And that's just, it's not going to be something that pops up in the box score. So he finished with 8.7 boards, 3 blocks, 2 assists. I thought he played about probably like a B+ game. There are things that he could have done better, but I don't understand the criticism of him right now. He's not Zach Edey. He's not Adama Sanogo. You got to appreciate him for what he does great. The other part of it is like KJ Adams, man, he's so good. Like, I hope UConn fans watching that appreciated just how incredible of a performance this was. If you don't know his story, like, to recap it real quick, his mom, Yvonne, had been battling cancer for years and years and years. And it was a big story. And she was around the program and she was a positive presence and knew everybody else on the team. KJ absolutely loved her. She adored that program. She adored Bill Self. She was the kind of parent that had the right mindset. She had been a coach back in the day where she wanted her son to be coached hard. She wasn't expecting too much. And she passed away, I think the day before they were supposed to leave for the Maui Invitational. He showed up late. He left the day after the game to go to her funeral, and to show up and to have the game that he did, which was, I'll call it what I think that's one of the best games of his entire life. He killed UConn in short rolls. UConn's defense was basically like, all right, we're going to make KJ Adams try to beat us. And you know what he did? He dribbled in and hit about 4 or 5 of those little like floaters from about 10, 11 feet. And that was a shot UConn would live with, and he made enough of them. I thought defensively he was utterly fantastic. And I'll tell you this much, if the kid ends up getting drafted this year, which I think he will, I think he's going to be a 2nd-round pick, it will be because of how well he played in games like that. He was utterly unbelievable. I can't say enough about him. He's a great kid. I can't say enough about him. He was absolutely fantastic. And that's all I got. I think that's about all I got. Look, Cam Spencer's going to make most of those open shots. Just keep letting him shoot it. Keep letting him fire away. There's a reason why when he's got 2 bum ankles and he's 2 for 11 from the floor, a play gets drawn up for him to get a potential game-winning 3. He's a great shooter. He hits game winners. He's a tough kid, and we want him shooting that shot. Cam, if you're listening to this, keep firing away. Same thing with Alex Caravan. He's in a little bit of a slump right now. He's going to get out of it. He's an NBA player. At some point, those shots are going to start going down, and UConn's going to start rolling. When Steph Castle gets back and makes the offense a little easier, UConn will be rolling. As weird as this sounds, I feel better now about where UConn is after watching them go into Kansas and play like this and come back from a 12-point deficit and have a chance to win the game than I did after the win over Texas, than I did probably after a lot of those non-conference wins. Like, this is the point where I'm like, okay, look, yeah, okay, I see it. I get it. I get where all of the UConn fans are like, Rob, you're an idiot for thinking UConn is more of a top 10 than what I see it. I'm there now. I still think that there are 9 teams in college basketball that are all just as good as each other. And if UConn can do this on the road in that building against this team, they belong in that conversation. All right, let's talk real quick about North Carolina and what North Carolina's got a chance to be this season and what this matchup is going to look like. For people that haven't watched them play yet, Armando Bacot is somehow still on this roster. He's averaging 16 and 11. The best player on their team so far has been point guard RJ Davis, who has really embraced kind of being the lead guard now that Caleb Love has left and is at Arizona. They added a kid named Harrison Ingram, who's like this 6'7" wing, played 2 seasons at Stanford. He was a McDonald's All-American before he left. I mean, he's been really shooting the ball well. He's kind of like a point forward in the sense that, like, you can use him as a secondary playmaker offensively. Cormac Ryan, a transfer from Notre Dame, has been a really good shooter. Their best lineups have been when they've had RJ Davis, Harrison Ingram, Cormac Ryan, and a freshman named Elliot Cadeau playing all together. Cadeau, by the way, he's been terrific. There was a stretch in time where against Tennessee, best defense in college basketball, he had 10 assists, no turnovers. Since he had 8 assists and 8 turnovers in his first 3 games as a reclassified point guard. And since then, a run where North Carolina's gone 4-1. Their only loss was in overtime to Villanova. He's had 24 assists and just 2 turnovers, despite playing about 28 minutes a game during that stretch. He's been really good. The one thing I will say about North Carolina is this: they are not a team that is going to be known for their defensive prowess. They're not quite, I would not say that they are a bad defensive team. I don't think that they are a great defensive team. They certainly do not have the defensive weapons that Kansas does. If they try to switch against UConn, 1 through 4, I think that is something where UConn is going to be able to take advantage of those mismatches. If you put Cormac Ryan on Alex Caravan, he should be able to do something in that matchup. If you end up with like a Harrison Ingram on Cam Spencer, that's something where I think Cam Spencer might be able to make a play, make something happen. But I think that this is a good matchup for UConn. You don't have the pick and pop threat with Armando Bacot. This is something where if Donovan Clingan is going to continue to prove my theory that what makes him so effective isn't necessarily what shows up in the box score, then we're going to look up at the end of the day and Armando Bacot will have like 10 points and 7 rebounds or something like that, as opposed to, potentially having like 22 and 14, which is what he's done against a lot of other teams. I think that the key here is going to be, one, keeping North Carolina out of transition. Right? Like, that's what they do well. They get out and run the floor. This is a top 5 offense in the sport. And they've been really effective this year at kind of spacing the floor and being able to use 4 guards at the same time. They are shooting 36% from 3 on the season. They're taking a lot of threes this year, and that's kind of who they are and what they've built this team to be. So I think that's going to be key. But look, they are a possession away from having 4 straight wins over Villanova, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Florida State. This is a good basketball team. This is a dangerous basketball team. This is a talented basketball team. And I think that UConn matches up really well with them. I think at this point, we can say that either North Carolina or Clemson is the best team in the ACC. And I don't think either of those teams are good enough to get slotted into that like best team in college basketball tier. So if UConn is going to live up to some of this hype, this is a game that I think that they should win. They are projected right now as a 4-point favorite on KenPom. As of this recording, there are no lines currently available for what they over at BetMGM. We don't have the lines yet, but I think UConn is favored. I would project them to win this game. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. But to me, there's basically two keys here. The first is someone's got to be able to stay in front of RJ Davis. He is he is quick, he's athletic. I think you would probably put solo ball on him to start just because they do run him off of some screens. I would probably have Cam Spencer on Elliot Cadeau simply because I think that he's not a shooter. You can play off him a little bit. I think Cam Spencer's a little bit of a better positional defender. And then put Alex Caravan obviously on Harrison Ingram. But to me, the key is going to be slowing down RJ Davis and Donovan Clingan win that matchup against Armando Bacot in the paint. But it'll be a fun game. We are going to be live up there. I'm going to be courtside. We're going to be doing a show after the game from the Jimmy V Classic from Madison Square Garden for After Dark. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a good game. And I think that UConn should be able to win. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I'll probably talk to you guys again at some point on Wednesday or Thursday, just recapping that matchup. It'll be something short and sweet. Maybe I'll get a North Carolina guy on to talk about it. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I promise you this, I'm going to talk a lot of shit to Tyler Hansbrough over the course of the next 2 days. Make sure that he knows who the best program in college basketball is and make sure that he is reminded UConn's got 5 titles. North Carolina's only got 3 right now. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm gonna do before we go, I'm gonna drop in some of the audio from the conversations that we had on our live shows on After Dark from FAU from the Field of 68 tip-off. And we can go from there. So make sure you write, review, subscribe, like, do whatever you have to do. Make me happy as a podcaster. And if you're going to be at the Garden tomorrow night, I'll see you there.